After installing over 500 mods in Cyberpunk 2077, I started wondering, could you actually survive living in a fully modded night city? At first glance, the answer seems obvious. The city is absolutely stunning, massive skyscrapers, neon lights everywhere, and some of the most impressive visuals I've ever seen in a game. But once you look past the skyline and start seeing everyday life, things get a little more complicated. Today, I'm going to rate 5 different aspects of living in Night City: housing, transportation, food, safety, and the economy. Each category gets a score from 1 to 5, and by the end we'll find out if this futuristic city is actually somewhere I'd want to live. Let's start with housing. Housing ended up being one of the biggest surprises for me. While looking around the city, I checked out several different apartments, but my favorite by far was the Glen apartment. The layout is beautiful, the location is great, and the views are among the best in the entire city. The apartments themselves are modern, spacious, and way nicer than I expected. The problem? I have absolutely no idea how anyone's supposed to afford them. Still, purely from a quality standpoint, Night City definitely has some fantastic places to live. We're going to give housing a 4 out of 5. Next up, transportation. And to be fair, this was one of the easiest categories to score. For a city this massive, getting around Night City is surprisingly convenient. While recording footage, I spent most of my time either driving or walking through the city, but I also took a closer look at the metro system. And I must admit, it's actually pretty impressive. The trains arrive on schedule, stations are spread throughout the entire city, and if you don't feel like spending a fortune on vehicles, public transportation is a completely realistic option. What surprised me most was how much detail went into the city's layout. I found myself stopping to watch traffic lights change, pedestrians cross intersections, and cars navigate busy streets. It's a small detail, but it makes Night City feel more like a real place instead of just a video game. Now, if money wasn't a factor, I would probably own a car. Driving through Night City is an experience by itself. The problem is, after seeing vehicle prices, I realized that might not be happening. Still, whether you're walking, driving, or taking the metro, transportation is one area where Night City definitely excels. Transportation gets a 5 out of 5. Unfortunately, this is where things go downhill. Night City has no shortage of food options, vendors, restaurants, bars, food stands. There's something on every corner. Problem is, most of it looks disgusting. Maybe it's just me, but a lot of the food in Night City looks like it was made in a meth lab, not a kitchen. And whenever I actually found something that looked somewhat appetizing, it usually came with a pretty ridiculous price tag attached. At one point, I even noticed water being sold for what would be around $8. $8 for water. Now, to be fair, there is some variety. During my exploration, I found a small convenience store tucked away in a rough part of town. They sell milk for around $1, and tacos and burritos for only a few bucks, so affordable food does exist. The issue is that finding it feels less like grocery shopping and more like a scavenger hunt. Could you survive on the food here? Maybe. Would you enjoy it? Not so sure. Food gets a 3 out of 5. If transportation was Night City's strongest category, safety is easily its weakest. At first, things didn't seem too bad. Areas around city center felt somewhat safe, people were walking around normally, businesses were open, and for a brief moment, I started thinking that maybe Night City's reputation was a little bit overblown. Then I started exploring. The further I got away from the nice parts of the city, the worse things became. Pacifica in particular felt like an entirely different world. The streets were rough, gangs were everywhere, and it didn't take long before I found myself stumbling into situations I definitely wasn't prepared for. Things only got worse from there. Throughout my exploration, I witnessed gang activity, police shootouts, and enough random violence to make me question why anyone would willingly live here in the first place. And the biggest issue isn't even that dangerous areas exist. Every city has dangerous areas. The problem is how quickly you can go from feeling completely safe to being one bad decision away from being flatlined. Night City is one of the coolest cities I've ever explored in a game, but it's also one of the few places where taking a wrong turn could realistically end your day. Safety gets a 1 out of 5. As bad as safety was, the economy might be worse. Throughout my exploration of Night City, one question kept coming back to me over and over. Who is actually paying for all this? The apartments are incredible, but the prices are insane. The vehicles are even worse. After looking through some of the options available, I genuinely started wondering if the average citizen in Night City makes $250,000 a year, because otherwise I have no idea how anyone's affording this. Even basic necessities seem expensive. Earlier in the video, I mentioned the absurd prices on simple food items like burritos and water, which doesn't help their case. Sure, I eventually found a small convenience store selling milk for $1 and tacos for a few bucks, but considering where it was located, I don't think that's exactly the shopping experience most people are hoping for. And that's really the biggest problem with Night City's economy. Could you survive here? Maybe. Could you live comfortably? That's a completely different question. Unless you've got an insanely high-paying job, expensive cyberware, or some incredibly generous landlord, life in Night City seems like a constant struggle just to stay above the water. The economy also gets a 1 out of 5. So after rating housing, transportation, food, safety, and the economy, Night City ends up with a final score of 14 out of 25. Night City has some of the most beautiful views I've ever seen in a video game, but it's also covered in trash. It has incredible apartments, but most people probably can't afford them. The transportation system is fantastic, but there's always a chance you won't make it home to use it. And while there's always something exciting happening around every corner, that's also part of the problem. After spending all this time exploring a fully modded Night City, I've come to one conclusion. This is one of the coolest places I have ever visited in a game, but if someone offered me a one-way ticket tomorrow, I'm staying home. The views are incredible, the city is unforgettable, and the atmosphere is unlike anything else I've experienced. Between the violence, the prices, and whatever they put in that food, I think I'll pass. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more content in the future, consider subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.